What's up everybody, welcome back. In today's video I want to take a look at improving the lobby a little bit, so we're going to add a ready up button. And because this is a subject that a lot of people seem to struggle with, I've decided to make this a separate video, so it's probably going to be a little bit shorter. So we're basically going to set something on the client, replicate that to the server, and then have the server make changes and replicate those changes back to all clients. So that's today's video, and we're going to end up with a lobby like this where we have a ready up button, and if the clients have not readied up yet, the host cannot start the game. And if all clients do ready up, the start game button will be enabled. And if one of the clients will actually leave the lobby, then you will see everything will update and they will still have the correct ready up buttons assigned to them. So that's all working. And I also have a game mode selection in here, but we're going to look at that in the next episode probably. So this is today's video. If you like the series, please consider leaving a like. And if you want to get your hands on the project files, you can join the Game Dev Raw Discord and leave a small donation on my Ko-fi page or become a YouTube member. And then you will get access to the premium channels in my Discord with a few premium downloads. And this project is one of them. So with those things out of the way, let's dive into today's video. We're going to start in the menu game mode, so let's go to the framework folder, open up our menu game mode, and in here I want to create a new array of booleans that will tell the server which players are ready and which are not. So we're going to create a new variable, and that's going to be the isPlayerReady array. So that's a boolean, but it's going to be an array of bools. So with that array in place, we're gonna start at the event handle starting new player. So over here we're adding the player controller to the array of player controllers. So we're gonna make a little bit of room over here. And we're gonna drag in the isPlayerReady array, and we're gonna set an array element. Then we can simply plug in the index from the add node over here, and we're gonna set the item to false and make sure that it's size to fit. So that way the array of player controllers and the array of booleans will match for the indexes. So with that setup, we also want to go to the event on logout and make sure that we remove the correct index if a player leaves the lobby. And to do that, we need to actually find the index. So we're going to drag off the all connected player controllers here, and we're going to find. And we can plug in the result from the cast node over here, so the menu controller, plug that into the find node. And then we want to move over, we can't move them over because it's a pure node. So with the find node in place, we want to get the isPlayerReady array, and we're going to remove an index. So we can move over the pins to the remove index node, and we can get rid of the normal remove one, we don't need that one. Plug in the index from the find node, and then after we removed it from the bool array, we can actually remove the connected player controller from the array of player controllers. So remove an index from here as well. And you want to make sure that you remove it from the bool array first, because if you remove it from this array first, then for the second node it won't be able to find the correct index, so things will mess up. So make sure first remove it from the bool array, then remove it from the connected players array, and connect it back up to the update lobby event. So that should take care of the first setup of the bool array. Now let's dive into the widget and set up the actual buttons. So let's navigate to the widgets folder and open up our lobby menu. So first of all, in the designer, we want to add the actual ready up text over here. So I'm going to grab the border with the player names, and I'm going to increase the size a little bit. I'm going to make it 450. And then I'm going to grab the first text over here, so the text player name. I'm going to right click and wrap it with a horizontal box. So then we can grab the actual text and just duplicate it. So this is going to be the text player ready. So let's change that first. And for the actual text, I wanted to say ready. So I'm going to make the text red. So that's going to be all 100 and then bump down the alpha so it looks disabled. And then I want to set it to align to the right. And we actually want to increase the border a little bit more. So let's make it 500. 520. That should do. So the text should be aligned to the right, so if you select fill and alignment right, then it will pop to the right side. So I do not like the actual space in between the dots over here. That looks a bit weird. Yeah, that could work. Okay, so this is going to be the ready text. Now we can actually go to the text here and copy it. And we're going to go to the next player name, right click, wrap that with a horizontal box. And then if we select the horizontal box, we can paste the ready text and make sure that it's player ready 1. So that matches up, and then we can move on to the next one. So again, wrap it with a horizontal box, select the box and paste in the text, player ready 2. So that's good as well. And the last one, wrap it with a horizontal box and then paste in the ready text. So we have that set up. Compile, and let's dive into the graph to do the initial setup. So we want to start in event construct. So that's all the way over here. And we want to make an array of our player ready text in the same order as we did for the names and the borders. So let's make a little bit of room over here. And we can actually duplicate the all text player name array. So I'm going to call this my all player ready text, or all text player ready. That makes more sense. So that's the array. We're going to grab a setter over here, plug it in, and grab the make array node. And then we can simply look for the text over here. So text player ready, and make sure you connect them in the same order as you did for the borders and the names. So that should match up. Then we want to make sure that we set the text for the host, because the host is not going to have a ready up button, he's simply always ready. So we're going to grab the first text player ready, so that's the top one in the list, and that will always be the one for the host. And we're simply going to set the text. And I'm going to change the text over here to host. Plug it in to the array setter, and then I also want to change the text for the color for this. So let's drag off and set color and opacity, plug it in, and then I'm gonna make the color a variable. So let's right click and we're gonna promote to variable, and this is the color ready. And if we can compile it, we can set the default over here. So simply click the box, and then I'm going to make this green. So that's going to be 0.8, 0.8, something like this. So that's the ready color. And then we can continue with the branch over here. So for the server and the client, we want to do a few different things. So for the clients, let's start with that one. So that's the false pin over here. We're going to use the start game button as the ready up button. So for the start game button set text, we do not want it to set to please wait, but we're going to set it to ready up. And we want to make sure that we do not disable the button. So we can disconnect start game button disabled and simply plug this in back to the set visibility node. And then we should be good to go for the client. So we can use the set enabled node for the host, because the host wants to have the start button disabled at the beginning and only enabled if everyone is ready. So we're going to grab button start game, set enabled false, and plug that in right before the cast node over here in the host branch. So that should take care of the setup of the menu. And now we want to make sure that something different happens if a client presses the start game button. So let's go to the on-clicked event for start game. And in here, the first thing we want to do is add a branch. So let's grab a little bit of room over here. And over here, I'm going to add a branch first and check if we are the server. So simply type is server. Nope. So if we are the server, we can continue to the cast like we used to do before. And if we are the client, we want to create a new function, and that's going to be ready button pressed. So let's create that right away. Ready button pressed. And in the event graph, if this is false, we're going to call the new function. So plug that in over here. So into the start game on clicked event, compile and save. So we can take a look at setting up the ready button event. So ready button pressed, we're gonna need a new boolean for this in the widget. Well, we don't really need it, but it's going to make our life a little bit easier. So let's create a new boolean in here. Is player ready? So first of all, let's grab a branch and we're going to check the current setting. So is player ready? Plug it in over here. And if it was true, we're going to set it to false and the other way around. So make sure you connect up to setters over here. And then we want to get our game mode. So that's our menu game mode. And we have a cast to it over here. So let's just copy it from the event graph. Ready button pressed. Paste it over here. So we're going to cast to the menu game mode. And inside of our menu game mode, we want to call a new event that will change the player ready status for this player. So we're going to open up our game mode and quickly make the event. So we don't have to keep going back and forward between all of the blueprints. So this is our menu game mode, and inside the event graph we want to make a new function that's called setPlayerReady. So I'm going to grab my notes quickly, give me 1 second. It's going to be a pretty simple function, so let's look for an empty spot over here. Custom event is setPlayerReady. And for this event, we want to grab 2 inputs. One is going to be the player controller. So that's our menu controller. BP menu controller. And the second one is the actual boolean, so is ready. And turn that one into a bool. So we want to grab all of our connected player controllers and we're going to find the one from the input. So let's find, and that will return the index in this array. So then we can use that index to set our player ready boolean in that array. So drag it in and set an array element, plug it in, and we're going to use the index from the find node. So for the ready, we can set that to the item of the array and we should not need size to fit. So that should be good to go. And after we did this, we simply want to call our update lobby event and we're going to add a new branch in here to make sure that we can update our player ready status. So let's go to the update lobby event and let's grab a branch in here, drag it onto the node, and we're going to say players ready. So let's go back to this a little bit later. First we want to make the call into setPlayerReady event. So we're going to call our update lobby. And then we want to select the player ready over here. We do not need to update anything else. Then with this in place, we want to go to our event on logout over here. And we have an update lobby call in here as well. We want to make sure that we tick the player ready boolean in here. So if a player leaves, that will also update the ready status for all players. And there's one call inside of our menu controller. So let's open the BP menu controller as well. So over here, if a new player enters the lobby, it's going to grab its player profile locally, then tell the server to update the player profile and then tell the server to update the lobby. So in here we also want to enable the player ready update, so that will get updated if a new player enters the lobby. So compile and save that one. And then I think we're going to continue inside of our menu controller. Yes, so we can actually stay in here. And we want to create a replicated event. So I'm going to grab my notes again quickly. We want to create an event that executes on the server to tell the game mode to change the bool for us. So we actually created the setPlayerReady event on the game mode. But if we are a client, we are on the widget and we are using our local controller. So we cannot actually call the game mode directly. We have to replicate it to the server and then we can call the game mode. So inside of our menu controller, we're going to create a custom event. And that's going to be server update player ready. So this event needs to replicate run on server. And we're going to make it reliable for now. we're going to give this one input, and that's the isReady bool. And then we can simply grab our menu GameMode. So let's get GameMode and cast to it. And we can call our setPlayerReady event we just created. So setPlayerReady. And plug this boolean into the event input. And for the player controller, we're going to grab a reference to ourselves. So we can call this event from the widget, and that will make the GameMode update the bool for us. And then we can go back into our menu GameMode, and we're going to add some more stuff in here. So it seems a little bit confusing jumping back and forward, but I'm kind of trying to use the same order as these events are called in. So that's why. So we're going to go back into the menu GameMode, and in here we want to create the update lobby event. So we actually have the branch in place here already, so we're going to drag it all the way to the back. And over here, if we do not want to update our selected character, we might still want to update the lobby. So let's make sure we grab the false pin over here as well and connect both of the branches to our new branch. And if we want to update our player ready status, we need an event inside of our player controller to make sure that we can replicate it back to our owning clients. So right now we are on the server, and if we want to make changes to players' widgets, we need to be on their owning clients. So we're going to replicate an event back to them. So we need to go into the menu controller, and in here we're going to create update player ready. So that's a custom event again, update player ready. And this one is going to run on the owning client and is going to be called by the server. And again, we're going to make this reliable. So we're going to grab our lobby menu, and first let's make sure that the menu is actually valid. Plug that in over here, and then we can call our update player ready event on the lobby menu, but we need to create that, so we're going to do that in a little bit later. First we're going to go back to our menu GameMode, and in the update lobby event over here, if this is true, we're going to grab the item over here from the array element. So that's the actual player controller, and we can simply drag off here and call our update player ready event. So update player ready, plug that in over here. So you don't want to call the server update player ready, but the normal update player ready, because we are the server already. So this is the event for the other way around. And then for the update player ready event, we want to give it an input of booleans. So if we go to our menu controller, let's give this an input, and that's the player ready. And that's going to be an array of booleans. So then if we go into the game mode, we can simply plug in our isPlayerReady array into this event. Okay, that should take care of the update lobby event. So now we need to make sure that we have an event inside the widget that will actually update everything for us. So let's go to the lobby menu again. And in here we're going to create the update players ready function. I'm switching my notes quickly. Okay, so let's create a new function, update players ready. And again, this one is going to have an input of the bool array. So let's create a new input, is players ready. And then that's an array of booleans. And we also need local variables. So I'm going to create the local player ready count. So let's create a local variable, local players ready count. And that's an integer. And I also want to get the actual player count. So let's create the local player count. And that's also an integer. So first of all, I'm going to drag off the array over here and get the length. And we're going to store the length in the local player count. So that's the amount of players that are in the game. Plug that in over here. Then we're going to grab a for each loop, and we're going to loop through all of our booleans. So we can plug it into the input over here. Now we are going to count all of the bools that are set to true, so that's not too easy. We're simply, not too hard. We're simply going to grab a branch, plug it into the loop body. The array element is the condition. And if this is true, we can increase our player ready count. So let's drag it in and let's increase it. Increment integer. Now we do have one issue. The host doesn't have a ready up button and his boolean is going to be set false. So one really easy way to tackle this is to simply grab our player ready count and we're going to set the default value to 1. So that way we don't have to count the host. There's always 1 in here for the host. So if we start a single player game, for example, we can always ready up and start the game. Okay, so that should take care of that. Then we want to grab a branch over here and plug it in again. So we want to set the actual ready text to the correct color, but we do not want to change the text if we are the host, because the host cannot change the ready up status. So we're going to drag off the array index and we're going to compare it, so equal to. And if the index is 0, we are the host, so we're not going to do anything. And if the index is not 0, then we can set the correct color for the text. So connect another branch up to the false pin over here. And this condition is going to be the array element again. And then we simply want to get our all text player ready array. So we created an array for these. And we can drag off the array and get a copy. And then we can use the index from the for each loop over here. And then set the color and opacity. Plug this one into the true pin. So if this is true, the player is ready, so we can use our color ready and simply plug that in over here. And then we can copy this and paste it for the false branch. And then we want to turn the text into our red text. So I'm going to copy the color ready, duplicate it, and this is the color not ready. Compile it, so now I can set a new default, and that's going to be the red color. So I made that 100.3. And then we can plug that in over here. And that should take care of the color of our ready text. There's one thing we need to do. So we're having the array of our player booleans over here. And if we only have 2 players, the array length will only be 2, obviously. But we have 4 all text player readies in the widget. So we need to make sure that we also update the ones where there's no player assigned. So we're going to grab our all text player ready array. And we want to know the length of this. And we want to compare it to the player count. So let's drag off here and do greater than. And if the length of the array is greater than the local player count, then we want to take care of the other ready up text. So we're going to get a branch in here, plug it in, plug this one into the completed pin. So if this is true, we want to grab a for loop, not a for each loop, but a for loop. And then we can use the local player count as the first index. So let's drag in the local player count, drop it on top of the first index. So if the player count is 2, this array will have index 0 and 1. So we can continue with index 2 over here. And then the last index is going to be the length of the all player ready text, but we need to subtract 1 of this. So get the length, subtract 1, and then plug that into the last index. And for these ones, we want to get our all text player ready again, and we're going to get a copy of the index. And then we simply want to set the color and opacity again. So drag off this one, set color and opacity. But this time I'm simply going to make it transparent so we don't see it. So drag off here and make a slate color, and then select this one, and I'm going to just say all zeros. So that should be good to go. That will make the text disappear if there's no player in that slot. And then there's one thing left to do, and that's enable or disable the start game button for the host. So let's grab another branch over here, plug that into the false pin of the branch and also the completed pin of the for loop. And for this branch, we want to know if we are the server. So is server. And then we can simply compare the count for the player ready to the player count. So let's drag in the local player ready count and compare that. So is equal to our player count. And if this is true, then we can enable the start game button. So let's just grab the button start game. And we're gonna set enabled. And then we can plug the return from the comparison right into the pin over here. So we don't need a branch for that. That should work. And that's the update player ready function. So we can grab a return node, plug that in over here. And that should be good to go. So with this function in place, we want to go back to our menu controller. So the update player ready event that executes on the owning client. We're going to drag off the lobby menu and call our update player ready event function. So this is going to be is valid, and then plug in the array from the input of the event. And then I think we might have most of this covered. So let me check my notes quickly, and then we should be able to test it maybe. Okay, so it's not too bad, we're almost ready. We have the ready button pressed event, and in here we need to make the final call to the menu controller and not the menu game mode, so we can get rid of the cast over here. So getting a game mode from a widget is never a good idea in multiplayer. That will only work for the server. So first we need to get our owning client or owning player, so that's going to return the owning player controller, and we can cast it to our menu controller. And then on the menu controller, we created the replicated event server update player ready. So we want to call that event over here, server update player ready. And we can plug in the boolean from our variables, and that should make that one work. And then there's one thing I forgot in the update players ready event. So over here, we have the for each loop that checks the booleans, and for the last getter for the array element, I didn't plug it into the array index. So make sure both of these are connected up to the array index. Now we should have a good chance this is working. So let's grab a 4-player game and let's have a little look. So I'm not gonna worry about the names. Let me grab all of the viewports. There we go. So right now the server can start the game, and as soon as one of the clients entered, the start game button got disabled. So that part is working. So we have the host text, we have a ready up text, and if one of the clients presses it, it's changing. So that's good. Let's see if this is working. That works. And if all clients have it enabled, then the host can start the game. And for example, I can grab one of the clients over here. And if this one leaves the lobby, then you will see everything still updates and the correct ready up text is still assigned to the correct player name. So that's working as well. So this seems to be in place. Now, if you're interested, I'm gonna go and run through the functions and explain how everything works, because when we created this, I mentioned we had to go back and forward all the time because we had to create an event before we can call it, so that's a bit confusing. So I'm gonna run through it from the beginning to the end to explain how this works, and hopefully that will make everything a little bit clearer. So let's take a quick look how this is actually working. So we have the widget, and the start game button is also the ready up button for the clients. So if a client presses the ready up button, over here it will call the ready up button pressed event or function. So that will change the boolean for on the widget, and then we're going to grab our menu controller and call a replicated event on the menu controller. So we are on a widget right now, and that means we are on a local player, and also if we get the controller, we get the local controller, and the local controller is the same thing as the owning client basically. So if you want to make sure that you replicate something to the server, then you can always grab the local controller, because the local controller is the owning controller, and then use that to replicate to the server, and the other way around goes as well. So if you are the server and you want to tell something to a widget, for example, you want to replicate to the owning client, and the owning client is the local instance of that client. So then you can grab the widget over there and tell everything to update. So you want to make sure that you place the actual event on the controller. You cannot place replicated events on a widget or on the GameMode, for example, because those don't have other instances. So a widget only exists on the local instance of your character, so that way there's no other instance to replicate to, and the same thing goes for the GameMode. The GameMode only exists on the server's game, so there's no other game modes to replicate to. And the actual controller exists on the local game and on the host game, and the character exists on all instances of the game. So for replicated events, it's the safe route to go to your controller or go to your character and put the actual events on there, otherwise it won't work. So we are on our controller, but this time we are on our controller on the server instance of the game. So then we can get the menu game mode and tell the server to update the boolean for us. If the server changed the boolean, he's gonna call the update lobby event, and inside the update lobby event, we have a replicated event back to the owning clients again. So like I mentioned, the owning client is the local player, and then we can grab the actual widget on here and tell that to update the booleans. So again, this replicated event needs to be on the controller and not on the game mode, otherwise that won't work. And then we are locally again, so we can update our widget. So that's really how that works. You can go from local client to the server, and then from the server back to the local client, and that should pretty much make everything work. So hope it made a little bit of sense. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider leaving a like, and I'll be back soon for more. Talk to you later, guys. Bye bye.